This is Marcus Whitney's audio universe.
Like, you gotta do the work. You gotta show up and just do the work.
What's good? What's good? What's good? Happy Tuesday. Another episode of Marcus Whitney Live. Happy to have y'all back. I'm excited about my guest today because, occasionally in this world of being in startups, you will sign up to be a customer of a startup, and I bought a TV and I was looking at the price of the warranty and I was like, I want to protect it, but I don't want to pay that price. So I actually Google, how do you actually get a warranty for a TV and not have to get it directly through the retailer? And I found this platform called Upsie. This was 2 years ago when I moved into my new house, and it was the simplest thing ever. Went to the website, hooked it up, and then boom, I had a warranty, and I was super happy about it. And so, 2 years later, one of my best friends in the world, Sean, I asked him, hey man, I'm looking for great guests for the show. I'm looking for great founders, great entrepreneurs, innovators. And he was like, yo, my man Clarence. And then I looked at him up and I was like, yo, this is the CEO of Upsie. This is amazing. So without further ado, man, let's introduce my man Clarence, the CEO of Upsie. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, Marcus, man? Thank you so much for having me on and for being a customer, man.
Yeah, man. No, look, the service is fantastic, and I'm happy to have you on and talk about your story and how you got here. So I did a fair amount of research, after looking at your LinkedIn and everything like that, and now I want to hear more about your story, how you actually got this company off the ground, and you were in a Techstars cohort, so I want to hear about that. So catch us up, man. How did you get to this point?
Yeah, man. So, I tell the story often, man. I'm from Decatur, Georgia, which is about 10, 15 minutes outside of Atlanta. Grew up there. And, the whole, for a kid that grew up in Decatur, you kind of already know the story, right? Grew up, hustling, trying to survive, trying to figure out what life is. Fortunate at the same time, I was a decent basketball player. And that's what kind of got me out of that environment when I was a young man. But I was still a knucklehead when I left, but I got up and actually went to Kansas to play JUCO basketball, and didn't survive there because I just had no discipline. So I ended up going back home to the streets. Just kind of jumped around like that for a while. And then fast forwarding to about 2007, 2008, I met the former CEO of a Fortune 500 company that kind of changed the trajectory of my life. And gave me some really clear indicators of what I could be with the talents that I had, from the streets growing up. And he instilled, a sense of confidence in me that I didn't have in myself. And that's kind of how this thing, started with me, how my life kind of started in this trajectory.
Okay. So, first of all, I love the fact that we both went to college and we're not mature enough to actually handle that experience. So I feel you on that. Talk to me about how you ended up crossing paths with this Fortune 500 CEO. How did that even happen for you?
Yeah, man. Actually, at the time, I was coaching basketball and doing sales for a basketball academy here in town. And he brought his three sons to play basketball there.
Wow.
And it was just kind of one of these, you do the right thing for long enough, once you get on that right path, you just say, none of these right things are making me money. None of these things are really moving forward, but I'm going to continue to do the right things. And he noticed me out of, a lot of people in the gym. He noticed me and was like, I feel like you have something special. Wow. And I want to be helpful. And that's kind of what changed my life.
Wow. That's amazing. So let's go to the next step. I mean, okay. So now you have somebody who's pouring into you, who's you're not just going off of internal, now you're getting external validation. That's serious. But what's the next step? Because it still feels like it's a pretty long, jump from there to CEO of a tech company that's been up and running successfully for multiple years now.
Yeah. So a lot of it was learning. I often talk about being a voracious learner, like at any turn I want to learn it. And throughout about 9.5 years of him mentoring me, I remember times where I would go to his house at midnight and be like, hey man, I got questions about this business book that I just read. And I would keep him up to like all kinds of like just asking questions.
Huh.
And during that time, it was just like a lot of like Harvard level MBA type learning over that time in the real world. And he told me when we first met, he's like, man, I see like one day I think you're going to be a CEO of your own company and like you're going to be able to do something special. You're going to lead people. And it was just like breathing life into me, right? Like you can do all of these things. And that's kind of what led me to, wanting to start Upsie, because I saw the problems that we could solve. And I was like, well, now I got all the confidence, I got all the resources, I know what I need to do, and I went and did it. And fortunately, we're still alive and we're still here.
Okay, so let's talk about what Upsie is. Give the elevator pitch, and then I'm going to start to kind of dive into this industry, because I'm fascinated that you can even do this business, quite frankly.
Right.
So, like that it's
Right.
even a possibility. So I want to get into the mechanics of it, but let's do the elevator pitch. What is Upsie?
Yeah. So, we've all gone to a big box store. You check out, and somebody at the restaurant offer you a high price warranty, like you mentioned at the beginning of the show. But normally, there's three things that are happening. One, you're paying as much as 900% more than you should. So, to give you an example, you're buying that TV for $900, and they will say, hey, the big box store will say, hey, for $130 for 2 years, we can protect that TV. Where really that warranty only costs $10, $15 from the insurance company. So we were like, hey, we can solve that problem. Two, there's no transparency. So I'm guessing when they were offering you the warranty, they didn't tell you what was covered or what not was covered, or here's what you need to do if you need to make a claim. They don't tell you any of that. And then three, the biggest problem is service. So like knowing where your warranty is and knowing where your receipt is, because you need your receipt to make a claim. So understanding like all of that, they don't tell you any of that. And so we wanted to solve those three problems for consumers. And we think we're doing it pretty well today.
Man, those are really big problems, because there's definitely different kinds of people who make these kinds of purchases at a big box store, right? A TV, a computer, right? You know what I mean? So for me, like I've set up my whole office with audio visual stuff. So you make an investment in a piece of equipment. For me, I try to spend that little extra bit of money and really take care of the thing. And for me, part of taking care of it is the warranty, period. Right. End of story. But like when you make that purchase for the warranty, the tracking of the warranty is a nightmare. Okay. Right. It is just a complete nightmare. It's always different systems. Some of them you got to like email it in. Some of them you got to like phone it in. Some of them you got to mail it in. Some of it is like an online form for some third party website that's, you're going down like all these different drop downs and stuff like that. So talk about, because I think this is really important. I think a lot of people look at people like you who have started a company, right? And A, they're like, wow, I don't even know how you knew that could happen. But B, like talk about how the idea happened. Like how did you get the idea and really start to go down the rabbit hole of understanding the industry and the ins and outs and knowing how much overcharging these companies were doing and how you might be able to buy and sell the same warranty and manage these warranties? Like talk about that part.
Yeah, so the funny story is I was this guy was mentoring me, and so the company was Best Buy. So Best Buy is the largest seller of warranties in the world. Like they do billions of dollars a year in warranty sales. And so because of my relationship with him, I got a chance to see that industry behind the scenes. And so like I remember a question I asked him in the office. I said, hey, like, why do you guys sell a warranty that costs $450? I mean, that costs $50 for $450. And I remember his answer. His answer was like very much about like the consumer being so stupid. Like we can charge this because it's on a $2,000 laptop. And I remember thinking like, well, consumers are not that stupid. We're in the new age of technology where the internet is kind of all knowing. And when I looked at the landscape, I was like, everybody is trying to take advantage of the consumer. What if we can create something that didn't do that? What if we created something that invoked your loyalty in the warranty? And it was funny because people would say, like, warranties are not sexy. And I'm like, no, they're not meant to be sexy. What they are meant to be is to be there when you need it. So if you break that TV, you got to know that Upsie is going to be here and we're going to either replace it we're going to repair it, or we're going to cut you a check so you can buy another one.
Right.
And so we want to invoke that confidence with our customers. And so that's how I got started in it, like really trying to understand like why they did what they did. And then once I saw that the reason why they were doing what they were doing because of greed, I was like, oh, somebody needs to disrupt this.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So now let's talk about steps from there. And that was a great story, just knowing that you learned about it from the same guy who inspired you to be able to do it. Like, you know, you learned about the industry itself and you found the problem. And I love that you're doing something that actually looks out for the consumer, right? I mean, that's like, we need more innovators out there looking out for the consumer for sure. But, you know, talk about the next steps, right? I mean, you are a graduate of Techstars, and for people out there who don't know, you know, I'm one of the co-founders of Jumpstart Foundry. We're a healthcare innovation early stage fund. We write seed and Series A checks. But when Jumpstart first started in 2009, we were an accelerator, and we actually got the playbook for how to be an accelerator. Like literally, David Cohen sent us via email the playbook from Techstars, and this was before Techstars was more than just in Boulder. This was when they were just in Boulder back then. So Techstars is now, you know, one of the top 2 accelerator brands in the world, with locations all over the world. And so to get into Techstars is a real like important badge of approval, you know, for an early stage startup. So you were able to get into Techstars and graduate. Like, talk about that process.
Yeah, Techstars was amazing, man. Like, so I never thought I would be able to get in, first of all, and simply because like in our town we didn't have any Minnesota companies in Techstars. So every company that came here was from out of town or from overseas. And so once we got in, I knew for me after the first week that this was an education that there was no amount of money or no amount of equity that you could pay to get this. So while I had formal business training with the guy I was talking about before, what I didn't understand is like unit economics and LTV and CAC and like all those things that go into a business. But I knew that we had something special. And so when I got into Techstars, man, it was like my mind was blown about like how this program in 13 weeks could teach you how to literally run your business. And it changed our company's trajectory. And it changed my trajectory as a founder because I had all those like those skills that you can't teach.
Yeah.
I didn't have like the founder CEO skills, and that's what it taught me.
Yeah. And you can learn those skills. I mean, I think that's like super important, right? That's something I try to get across in my book is that there are so many people out there who are likely to be entrepreneurs based on their personality and like their upbringing. You know, like they're just natural born hustlers. Like they know how to sell. They have the confidence. They have the willingness that they connect selling with like food on the table. So they're not afraid of it. You know, of like getting out there and getting it in the mud. But there's a whole school of entrepreneurship that you don't have to go get an MBA program to understand. It's like you said, the internet is like king, right? So you know. You can get this information if someone's just willing to break it down, make it accessible, and create like a pathway for you. You can learn these things. Like anyone can learn these things, and technology in particular. Once you combine tech and entrepreneurship, you really start to get into an area where there is much more opportunity. But I don't want to say the sky is the limit because I now want to turn the conversation to your experience as a black tech founder. In venture capital, right? Because as someone who is on the side of the table who writes the checks, I know about my industry, I know about my colleagues, and there's not enough venture capitalists that look like me for starters, and B, you know, my industry is not writing enough checks to people of color and women, right? So talk about how that experience has been for you sort of post Techstars.
Yeah. So, I think that when you look at like what's happening, and I'm be specific to black founders, right? 'Cause, like I'm black, so that's what I know.
Yeah.
Like, so Brad Feld just put out a thing like last night where he had a founder on his blog speaking about how black founders are judged differently than than white founders. It's like you expect to give me $2 million, and you give this white founder $70 million, and you expect us to have the same results,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's just not realistic. And we all know the stats: less than 1% of venture fund goes to African Americans. And so, like, I think that just speaks to the problem. I asked a white VC a few weeks ago. I said 75% of dollars go to just white men in tech. I was like, is what you're telling me that white men are 75 times better than I just can't believe that, right?
Right.
And so, like, we need more guys like you, like cutting checks, right? Who have like real check cutting capabilities, right?
Ability.
Yeah, and not just like I'm a partner, but I really don't get to make a decision type deal.
Yes.
And we need to invest in more Black women, because they're the fastest growing business segment in this tech thing, and they're killing it. I mean, I can name so many Black women founders who are killing it right now. And so, like, I just feel like I put that pressure on myself, and I say I got to be the best, right? Like, I can't be average. I got to know my numbers. I got to know my business. I got to be the most crazy advocate for our customers, and I got to control my controllables. But like there's obviously a huge problem going on with Black people trying to get money in tech, and really I think it's so massive that like we are like 10-20 years away from seeing some type of results. But I think it starts with guys like yourself. We need more Black people writing checks and understanding the problems. When I look at a lot of venture firms and you talk about weave, like women's weave, right? And how many people didn't understand Maven when it first launched,
right?
And it's like, but to you and I, it's like, well, of course, because our mom, our sister, like we know what they spent, right?
Yes.
And so we just need more representation on your side of the table, and we need founders of color to continue to kill it.
Yeah, look, I agree, and that is something I'm working on. I'm for sure working on it, because I couldn't agree more. I think also, that it's like the capital is only so much of it, right? I want to kind of go back to the beginning of the turning point in your story, which was meeting that person who mentored you and really like sponsored you and shepherded you to the point where you were well equipped to launch the company, get into Techstars and all of those kinds of things. There has to be sponsorship too, right? You know what I mean? And that sponsorship often takes either someone who's got an incredible moral compass, right, where they really are void of most prejudices, or someone who has an intimate knowledge of what the person is going through and what they're experiencing, right? And I think that's another reason why you have to have more Black people on the check writing side of the table, because the advocacy is going to be more effective. The understanding of what needs to happen in order to help this person be successful is going to be more built in. So that's a big thing that we have to work on, and I'm working on it. I'm going to send you something like after this show. I want your feedback on. It's very specific to healthcare, because in healthcare we've got even more issues than even the most the standard industries in tech. But I'm going to send that to you anyway. Let's keep chopping it up, man. So you mentioned quickly that you're in Minneapolis, and that evokes lots of feelings for me right now. In 2020. But I think there's two places I want to go with that. One, I want to just talk about what you have seen change, at least in terms of the conversation around Black tech founders and access to capital. There have certainly been many things that have been announced, many discussions that have happened. I can just think of like Nate Jones's fund at Andreessen Horowitz, Kobe and everybody over at Valence, and like, the Valence Investor Network, what's happening there. So there have been these announcements. There have been things that are there's certainly things that are happening, right? Jewel Burke just closed on Collab Capital, $50 million. And I saw you were recently featured in an article, talking about this topic. But you also just said it's going to be 10 to 20 years before any like meaningful change happens, which I think is a very sober, honest look at it, because it is a multi-generational thing, right? But help me to sort of understand how you feel things have meaningfully changed just in the last 90, 120 days. Like what have you felt change in, that's real?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that's changed over the last, more specific, since the George Floyd thing. So, we're looking at like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The thing that's changed the biggest is the conversation, right? Like, and the conversation used to just be you and I, right? Because we were Black.
Right.
Well, now what's happening is conversation has moved to white people, to white VCs, to, all the way across the spectrum. And I think there's been a light shined on like the problem in this country, like the George Floyd thing. I grew up around crime and violence, and I've seen some things. I don't think for most of the world they've ever seen a man die for 8 minutes and 46 seconds in front of them like that. And so that has invoked conversation that I think people are like, we need to have the conversation because we can't see that again.
Mm-hmm.
It's how they talk about how like crack in the Black neighborhood is not really talked about, but the minute it hit the white neighborhood, everybody want to talk about it, right? And I think that's what happened. This has become like a national and a human rights problem. So I think the biggest thing that changes just the conversation that we can like more for, even if you're on Twitter, like the conversations that are happening openly on Twitter that I don't think would have happened 8 weeks ago. It has been awesome to see.
Well, take that to a more personal level, because one thing I know is that there are so few of us in positions of power in tech, and I consider you to be in a position of power as a CEO of your own company, right? Like, there are so few of us in positions of power in tech that for me, my experience the week after, everything really sort of went down in Minneapolis, right? Was I got all these inbound calls, specifically from white men who are in positions of power who know me, and it's like I'm the closest Black person they know, right? And so they're calling me to kind of be like, are we really that far apart? You know what I mean? Like is this really, like, tell me, Marcus, like how serious is this? Did you get those calls?
Right. Oh man. But I bet you that first week and a half, I spent more time fielding those calls than I did working on Upsie.
No doubt. No doubt.
It was. I mean, it was emotional. It was like literally, I would hang up the phone and another call would come from somebody wanting to talk, and it was. At first, I think it was great for me. I was like, man, like this is cool. Like people are seeing the problem, but then you turn around and you're like, well, I haven't worked on my business in a week. Like I haven't been there for my team in a week. They're emotional because they're led by a Black founder. So they're feeling my pressure, right? Every time we get on the phone call. And so I just finally got to the point where I was like, hey man, you need to go read White Fragility and start there. And then, then I think you'll learn what you need to learn. But I mean, it was just like you, man. Like it was nonstop for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure like I was having an experience that was a shared experience, because man, that first week and a half, it died down after about a week and a half, but that first week and a half, boy, that was like, it was intense. It was intense.
It was.
So now let's maybe shift to the other topic around Minneapolis, which was, man, your city has been through a lot. It has been in many ways the epicenter of change for the country that, this will go down in history books for a long time. But as you said, we're only 6 weeks out. It's crazy that we're only 6 weeks out. I mean, like, time is weird right now for a lot of reasons. Right. And I can't really wrap my head around the fact that it's only been that long. But man, that makes me wonder even more, given all of the changes that your city has gone through, man, how are things in Minneapolis? Minneapolis is not in the media sort of story of the moment right now. We're talking about the rise in coronavirus and a lot of stuff around the political race and things like that. What's happening in Minneapolis now in this aftermath?
Yeah, a lot of healing is like we're trying to heal as a city. Our neighborhoods have been, burnt down. Our city's been burnt down. Grocery stores have been burnt down. And if you think about your life today, like you can probably walk out your house and within 10 minutes be at a grocery store to stock your fridge. And those communities can no longer do that. So we've been doing, everything that we possibly can to help those people. So, taking groceries to the city, to the people, right? Like buying diapers, taking them to the city, feeding the city, like everything that we can do to be engaged with the city, we've been trying to do. People are hurt, man. Like, again, like when something like this happened, and it's not, this being a Black man, like this ain't the first time this has happened. I think this is just the first time this has happened in such like a loud, like literally there couldn't have been a louder way for this to happen. It just so happened to happen in Minneapolis. So like we are, the city's still a little bit on edge, right? We're still on edge because like you already know the game. Like, okay, so you arrested them, you charged them. Now is the final piece. Like, will they be convicted? And so I think the city will be on edge until those conviction comes through. What I can say, and I say this, and I hope I'm wrong, knock on wood, but if they don't get convicted, I think we're going to see another uprising, and we're going to be bigger than what we saw before.
Look, man, I don't think there's any question about that. I think you'd have a lot of people betting alongside you on that, and because it just it would just make people feel like there is no justice. We all watched it, so there's nothing to,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no excuses. There's no alternative judgment to come down with, right? You know what I mean?
Correct.
It's like, yes, they've been arrested. Yes, they've been charged. And now you're right. The final piece is the conviction. And I hope and pray for your city, and quite frankly, for many more. I don't think it'll be limited to Minneapolis should that decision be incorrect. I
agree.
I think that's going to be nationwide. Unrest and upheaval. No question. No question. So
I agree. If this doesn't go the way it
should go, the way it should go.
But I'm gonna be even more specific here. If this doesn't go the way that it would go for you and I,
right?
If we had done that,
right.
Like if it doesn't go that way,
right,
then we have a problem, because I think you and I both know if that was you and I.
Dude,
like we would already be guilty.
It would be done. That case would be case would be done. Yeah.
So I think that's what we want, right? Like we just want it. We want the same justice that you would put on us.
Yeah. And also, like, because it's all been captured on film, justice. Like, it's just justice, right? It's just like what needs to happen, right? It's just what needs to happen. So man, look, I know I know this for a fact because I have recently spoken to the students at Kenzie Academy, which is a great tech school, that has a very, very strong focus on teaching diverse populations about technology to help them achieve economic mobility. A lot of people that have picked up my book, I know there are so many people who right now are in this moment where, man, the economy is really weird. There's so much unemployment. And, I know that entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs, we are experiencing something very, very different, right? Because the internet is still up and running, you know what I mean? And e-commerce is still happening, right? And so what encouragement would you give for people who are trying to lean into their optimism, but also, are probably a pretty long way away. Maybe they're in the position where you were when you were just coaching basketball. You know what I mean? What would you say for people who are trying to kind of navigate things and figure out, how they're going to be able to participate in this world that you and I live in?
Yeah. So first thing I would say is lean in to those feelings. Like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with being scared and not knowing your path. And I would go back to my situation, finding a mentor, somebody that believes in you more than you believe in yourself, because that's what's happening, right? Like you're not super comfortable. You don't understand what you need to do. And I would say, like, go out and be uncomfortable, not actually go out because of Corona, but like find yourselves in rooms and Zoom rooms that you don't feel comfortable in. and connect with people. I think the world, like nobody gets to where they need to get to without help. Like we're all at every step, like you are a step and a part of my journey, right? And like when I look at that, I look at every person as like, this person is on this journey with me, and I need to be able to respect that. And so go out and try to find those people and be active about it. And that's where I would start.
That's great guidance and a great note to leave on. So everybody out there, first of all, like you need to learn about this company. Like if you care about warranties like I do, and I even need to like go back and like re-engage with this company because it really does solve so many problems. And also, follow this guy, man. This guy is an inspiration. What he's doing is really, really meaningful, and he's blazing trails for many, many other, people of color who are seeking to leverage technology and to be their own CEOs, not just to, code in those companies, but to lead those companies. So like I said, follow him, Clarence_Bethea on Twitter. You can find him on LinkedIn and Upsie.com. That's the company. Clarence, thank you for being here, my man. Really, really appreciate it. Everybody, y'all know I got the book, Create and Orchestrate, out now. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at my site, creativepower.co. Go check it out. The podcast, Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe. Everywhere that you get podcasts, go grab it. Go subscribe. I need those downloads to grow. So please go subscribe and follow me online everywhere at Marcus Whitney. That's it. We will be back tomorrow with another episode of Marcus Whitney Live. I appreciate y'all. Let's build a new normal. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe.